There's 150 videos on how to clean your Glock. And I've cleaned Glocks in many different ways over the past 20 years. But what I decided to do is go and look at the official way that Glock says to clean your pistol. And so what we're going to do is go through each of the steps that Glock says. This is not necessarily what I'm recommending, but it's what Glock officially says. And you can take it from there. In fact, there is a little bit of leeway here and there with solvents and oil, but Glock is pretty particular about certain points. And so we're going to look at each of the ways, not only to clean, but to also lube, and then to do the Glock inspection of your pistol. This to me is very helpful for new gun owners, but even us old salty guys that are old Glock fans can learn a thing or two. We're going to be using the Glock 26, but this applies to all models of Glock, no matter what caliber, no matter what frame size. Now here are the items that I have for the cleaning project. I have a cleaning rod and of course a jag for patches and a bore brush. You can use a bore snake as well. And then we have a toothbrush of some sort. This is definitely for gun cleaning. I have some Q-tips, and these are just long, but you can use standard regular Q-tips, patches, a little bit of gun lube, some solvent, and a rag, and something to put it on, at least something you don't want to harm, like a kitchen table. You want to have something you want to put down. This is just a little lineman cleaning pad or station. So first thing we're going to do, we have the magazine out. We're going to double check, make sure the gun is unloaded. Visually checking the chamber, and we can see that it is clear. One of the things I want to note before we get started is, I know a lot of guys on YouTube, we do this a lot, checking our guns, and it's very important you get in that habit. It's a discipline that you really need to do. More gun accidents happen when you're cleaning your gun, because a lot of people feel like the gun's unloaded, they've removed the magazine, and there's one in the chamber, and there you go. So first and foremost, definitely check your firearm. Next, we're going to disassemble, so pointing it in a safe direction, pull the trigger, pull down on your tabs about Glock says 1/10 of an inch, and then it just comes right off. And we're going to separate our recoil spring guide rod and our barrel. There are 4 parts to your Glock pistol: your slide, your frame, your barrel, and your recoil spring. Your magazine, we're going to also take a look at that as well, but these are the main 4 parts that you're cleaning. We're going to start with the barrel, and of course that gets the most dirt and grime and of course lead buildup and powder and all that kind of stuff. Now we've got a bore brush on our rod, and we always go from the breech end first. You don't want to nick the front of your barrel, the muzzle of your barrel. And we're going to take, this is dry, and we're just going to kind of clean out all the fouling. Go through about 6, 7 to 10 times, just according to what your preference is, according to how dirty it is. Okay, once you get that clean, you can just kind of inspect to see where you are. Now we're going to take off the brush, slide your patch through. We're using some Hops No. 9 solvent. I've been using this stuff for 30 years. It's great stuff. You don't want to get too much of the solvent on your patch, so wringing it out some is smart. We're going to take this and just run it through. This is going to dissolve a lot of the lead. It's going to get rid of it. It's going to allow it to kind of come off. You want to go through a number of times. You definitely want to get your chamber, and again, kind of spin it as it goes through. The bore brush got a lot of the fouling out, but usually when you're using Full Metal Jacket, it really helps to keep the leading down. Now we're going to take this off. We're going to take another patch, and we're going to put just a little bit of bore solvent on there, and we're going to make sure that there's no buildup on the barrel. So we're just going to kind of wipe it down. One thing you want to pay attention to is your feed ramp right here, and you can see how dirty that is. But shooting a lot of rounds through here, it really can get messy. Now we're going to take our cloth and we're just going to wipe it down. You want to get all of that solvent off. Now it will evaporate, so you don't have to really worry about it. Next we're going to take a dry patch and we're going to run it through the bore, getting any kind of fouling out, making sure, and getting that solvent out of there. You want to run patches through until they turn clean, until they're just clean when you pass them through. And we look down the barrel and it looks nice and clean and shiny. Now the barrel's pretty much clean. We still need to add lubrication. We'll do that in a minute. But we're going to now clean the slide. And Glock recommends taking a toothbrush with a small little patch. And just kind of push it onto the patch and just start cleaning the rails. That's one of the big places to get. And so just go inside your slide rails, get all the debris out, and then get the top of the, right here on the back part of your slide. Now you can see right away that it's getting a lot of fouling. You want to get the top of your slide as well. This pretty much just gets all the debris and the fouling and residue out from your slide. Okay. Now I did bring out some Q-tips. This is not necessarily for the Glock recommendation, but I like to get those areas of the slide rails with a Q-tip. You can get it with that brush and the patch, but as you can see, there was leftover in those crevices. Now one thing that you will see sometimes is a copper kind of lubrication or copper wash that's inside a brand new gun, and that is made for long-term lubrication, and you don't want to remove that. You want to leave it in because it actually helps for the break-in period of the gun. I know a lot of people wonder what that is, but that is to be left. That is from Glock, the Glock factory. And as you can see, we got quite a bit even after cleaning with the brush and the patch. Now one of the places we really want to pay attention to is the breech face and the extractor. And right here is your breech face, your extractors right here on the left. Holding the muzzle end down when you clean, it keeps the debris from getting into your firing pin channel. So just holding it in this down position and just wiping it. Of course, then taking a look and inspecting it and then continuing on. Also getting the extractor right underneath to make sure there's no debris there. Next we're going to clean our recoil spring and guide rod. Just brush and get any kind of debris off there. It builds up. This is where a lot of the when you fire the gun, there's a lot going on with your recoil spring and guide rod, so just keep it good and clean, mainly from debris. Then we're just going to wipe it down. Next is our frame. Again, take your brush, just clean areas, especially right in here with your trigger bar, your locking block, also the inside right here of your frame. Just get these areas, make sure there's no debris or anything there, and this will just remove a lot of that residue. Getting up under your slide rails, the cruciform in the back. You can clean down into your mag well, just getting your brush down there, making sure there's nothing. A lot of times you pick up mags off the ground, load them, and dirt, things like that can get in here. Glock also recommends that if there is buildup, debris, and residue on the inside of the frame, you can take just a little bit of solvent on a patch and just hit the high areas. And these are the metal areas that have a little bit of buildup. You can just touch them. As you can see, we've got some. Once you get that taken care of, then you need to get that completely dry. And so we're going to take a cloth and we're just going to wipe this down. Very little solvent. You need to make sure that it's completely dry before you reassemble. And we're done. Now, clean your magazine. Right here is a little tab. You push that in. And then right here on the sides, there are little catches on either side, and you need to depress it. Some people can take their thumb and forefinger and push. I have a little more trouble with it, so I've got a special tool I use. But you can do it that way. I got this from Brownells. This little tool is invaluable, especially if you're cleaning a number of different magazines. So we get the tool and press, and then I'm just going to pull the base plate. We get it started, then we can pull it off. Get your thumb over the spring, the magazine spring, and then let it come up. The big thing here is you want to clean the body of your magazine with a brush. Any kind of debris or fouling that might be in there. Make sure the spring is just clean. The follower. And the inside of your base plate and retaining plate. I'm just going to wipe the spring down and just for any kind of debris that might have missed it with the brush. No lubrication or solvents are necessary when you're doing this, but if you do use any kind of lubrication or solvents, make sure that it is completely removed with a cleaning cloth before you reassemble. One of the things, and it has a lot to do with the lubrication, is anytime you leave oils or lubrication or solvents, they can build up a lot of grime and powder, residue, and things like that, and cause issues with your firearm. Now we're going to reassemble. Slide your magazine in. Base plate, retaining plate. Then just put your base plate back on. There we go. It's a lot easier to reassemble than it is to disassemble. Now that we have the gun clean, we're going to add lubrication. A couple of things about lubrication is Glock recommends using a very little gun lube, and if you do, you wipe it down really well. And so that's really important to remember, because again, things can get built up in your gun, and that can be a problem. Now here are the points on the gun that recommend for you to lubricate. And you can see from the diagram the different areas. And these areas, once they're lubricated, you make sure that it's not heavily lubricated. So very light oil, and use it in particular spots. We're going to use this Hops number 9 oil and just add a little bit to a cloth, and we're going to clean the inside of the barrel. We want to go through it a number of times and make sure that we're picking up that oil, and we're going to run a dry brush or a dry patch through here when we finish. You can see we're picking up a little bit of residue even after we've cleaned it with the bore solvent. Now we want to run just a dry patch through it. And again, there's going to be a little bit left, but that's all you need. There we go. And it looks great. On the outside of the barrel, we're going to add just a little bit of oil to the barrel. We're going to take our cloth and we're going to wipe it down. We're going to go ahead and just wipe down the barrel. There's a lot of action that goes on with your barrel. Just make sure that there's no oil left over. Again, these guns run really well, and so just a little bit of lubrication is fine. Also, we want to put just a little bit of lube right here, which is recommended, right in here between your lugs. We're going to take a patch and we're just going to kind of get some of the excess out. One place we want to make sure we have a little bit of oil is right here at the top of the chamber, because it mates with your slide. And one of the things I want to just go ahead and demonstrate here is how the barrel tilts down. And you can see it rubs right there on the slide. And so we want to make sure that the oil penetrates the metal, but it's not too much. So we're going to put a little bit of oil on our patch. We're going to rub that area particularly. We also want to check, make sure our feed ramp is, and the breech face is clean. Now we just want to wipe it down. Now on the slide, we want to get the top right here of the slide, and this is where the barrel comes in contact. We're going to take our patch and we're going to just rub that, making sure we get right on that edge. Again, one place we do not want to get any oil is right here near the firing pin channel. One place also is right where the barrel touches the slide and comes through the hole. Want to give that just a little bit of light oil. I've got a little bit on the end of this Q-tip. There's a lot of wear that goes on that barrel. Now Glock recommends that we have 1 drop of oil pretty much for your slide rails. And what I'm going to do is apply it. It says apply it to a patch, but I'm going to apply it to this Q-tip. Just going to rub those rails. Just get a nice little film. Then I'm going to take the other side and come back. So it'll just give it a very light coat. Do the same for the other side. You can see that we're picking up still a little bit of debris and a little bit of powder, but that's because the oil has actually loosened it up some. And we're done. Now Glock says one of the most important places to lubricate is right here under your connector where this little hinge comes up. And it has a lot to do with the way that the trigger bar rotates under that and causes wear. And so you're going to want to put just a little bit of lube right there. So we're going to just a drop right in there, and this will help when that rubs. And then some of that lubrication will go down into the trigger housing, but that's okay. And this is going to help make this a little smoother. And then we want to add just a touch of oil to the slide rails on the frame. We're going to take our patch and just get any of the residue off. And that's all the lubrication we need to do to the frame. Now we're going to do the Glock recommended inspection of each of the parts. First inspection is to check the barrel, look for any kind of bulges or cracks or any kind of obstructions. So look down the barrel just to make sure that it is clear. That seems simple, but believe me, you need to check. Next we're going to check the firing pin, and right here on the firing pin lug we're just going to pull it back and retract it. And then let it go slowly back down. So we bring it up, retract it, just seeing if there's any kind of debris or any binding. And it should go all the way back and then down. Next we're going to see if the firing pin is protruding into the breech face, and it's not, it's flush. Right here is your firing pin safety. Just depress it and shake the slide. We should be able to hear the firing pin, and we can. Now take your firing pin lug and push it toward the muzzle to see if the firing pin will protrude right here. And we're not getting any movement. Now we're going to take and depress the firing pin safety. Just push it down and then push the firing pin, and we can see the firing pin is coming and protruding out. Next we're going to visually inspect the extractor right here for any kind of chips and make sure that is a straight edge. Also look underneath to make sure there's no debris. Looks good and clean. Next we're going to inspect the ejector, and right here is the ejector. We're looking for any kind of cracks or anything, and it looks to be just right, any kind of chips. Making sure that it's clean. Now take your slide stop, bring it up, make sure that it's snapping down just like this. If it's sluggish or if it's not snapping down, you have a problem. But here, this is a good slide stop. And that's pretty much it for the internal inspection. Now we're going to do an outer inspection, so we're going to reassemble. Barrel, recoil spring guide rod, bring slide to slide rails, function test, and now we're ready for the external inspection. Now I want to rack the slide, of course making sure the gun is unloaded. With the trigger, you want to make sure that not hitting the tab, but going from the outside of the trigger, pull it to make sure that it's not firing. And then take your shoe and pull the trigger, and it's firing. Okay, now we're going to open it up. We're going to check reset. Click the trigger, pull back, and we have reset. Do this a number of times, 3 to 4 times. Reset's good. Now magazine inspection. We're going to look at the feed lips, make sure there's no problems. Of course these are metal lined right here. Look for any kind of deformity. Everything looks really good. Now depress your follower. Make sure that it's free and it's flowing, and it is. Look at the exterior, especially right here at the mag catch. The base plate. Just make sure everything is in top shape. We're good to go. Now Glock recommends that you do this complete process when you first buy your pistol, and then every month or after every time you fire the pistol. And so that's just per Glock recommendations. As far as magazines and the disassembly and inspection, they recommend 3 to 4 months unless there are other circumstances where dirt, grime, things like that. And of course that has to do with your pistol as well. So it's just up to your conditions. It's an overkill, but that's just what Glock recommends. Again, these guns will go hundreds of rounds without cleaning, if not more than that. Again, I've fired this one 1,500 times at least before I did this cleaning and inspection. So the Glock pistols are up for it. But again, if you are carrying this gun as a concealed carry, you need to definitely take a little more care with those pistols than you do with just your range guns. It's just smart. In fact, one of my good friends had a little pistol that I did a review on. He let me borrow it. I took it out, went to shoot it, and it jammed right away. Once I disassembled it, it had lint built up all in the mechanism. Once I cleaned it, it ran like a champ. So when you're carrying a gun, especially with all the oils and the perspiration and lint and things like that, these guns can be contaminated and they can malfunction. So just keep track of your Glock, because if you ever pull this out and you need to use it, you'll want it to run like a Glock. So now we have the gun clean, lubricated, and inspected, and we're ready to go to the range. And then we'll do it all over again. Now if you're interested in completely disassembling the slide, the frame, and also the Glock 43, which is a little different, I'll have the links to the detailed videos down below where I go through every bit of the disassembly process of the slide, the frame, and the Glock 43. And I'll try to annotate them right here as well. Of course, obviously you can go to the Glock website and look at this information yourself, but sometimes it's kind of fun to watch it on video. I'm not saying this is the way to clean Glock. I'm just saying this is the way that Glock recommends. How you do it is up to you. But I guess Glock made the pistol, so maybe they know a thing or two about how to clean it. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. And now we're ready for the external inspection. Oops. Now Glock recommends cleaning your pistol after 300 to 400 rounds. They also, okay, let me make sure that's right. Some of the areas you need to be careful with, because I shoot a lot, and so it just, this gun personally has gone through 1,500 rounds without cleaning. Isn't typical Glock recommended, but that's before I'll really clean my gun. Yeah, I've got a cold today. I'm sounding a little bit like Lou Rawls, an old lady love.